All right, so in this video, we're going to learn about the over clause, which is critical to working with window functions. But before we do that, I want us to get on the same page in terms of data. So you can follow the videos and type this out yourself, but I would just look at the code that I've included along with this video and run this. So we make a new table, employees, it's simple. Employee number, department is varchar, salary is an integer. And then we insert just a handful, right? So some engineering salaries, some sales salaries, and some customer service salaries. So I'll go ahead and do this. I'll make a new database, create database. What should we call this? I don't know. We'll call it salaries. Or no, we'll call it window funcs. Whatever you want to call it. You don't even have to make a new database. I just already had an employees table in my previous database. So I'm going to use this new one, window funcs. All right, and then I'm going to paste that code to create the table and insert into employees. I'll do a select star from employees, and there we are. We see employee number, department name, and salary. Okay, so as we saw many times in this course, we could do something like select department, comma, average salary from, and then employees, group by department. And we discussed this in the previous video. This works. This is great. This is the easiest way to see a single boiled down number for each department's average salary. So we get 3 rows. One row that was collapsed down from each of 3 groups because we only have 3 different departments. So we had 3 different groups, and those groups had, 5, 6, 7 different entries in each group, different rows, all collapsed down to a single number for each group. Now we could even boil it down further and do this. Select and then just average salary from employees. And that boils down all of the rows into a single average, $68,428, 0.57 cents, I guess. We could round it, but we didn't. That is the average of all of the salaries. So nothing to do with window functions, just an aggregate function, average. But if I alter my syntax a tiny bit, and I include the over clause with parentheses after an aggregate function like average, we will get a different result. So if I try that, select average and then over from employees, now what we get is the same number, 68,428, but we get one value for every single row in our data set or in our selection, which in our case, we selected everything from employees. So remember how these window functions work. They take our data set, form it into one or more windows, which we'll talk about. Think of those as groups. Run some code with those windows, gets a value back, gives us that value with each row. It doesn't collapse those groups or those windows. So what we did here, when we said select average salary over, when you do over with empty parentheses, that sets up or constructs a window, but we left it empty, which means a window that includes all the rows, all the records. Shortly, we'll learn how to partition, how to create different sub or smaller windows. But for now, we just said, find the average salary for all of our rows together and give us the value alongside each row. Now, we didn't select anything else. We only got the average salary. But what I could do is this, select employee number, salary, department even. Let's do department first. And then average salary over empty parentheses from employees. And what do we get? Every row that we selected, which is all rows, we don't have a where in there. We didn't narrow it down in any way. We have the employee number, the department, the salary, and then also the average for all of our salaries, which maybe it's kind of weird to do that. Maybe not. It could be useful, right, to be able to see individual salary alongside average salary. But I'm going to show you how we can get more detailed statistics, how we can break this down by department, for example, and see each department's salary alongside each individual salary. But this is our first step. By using over, we created a window. Think of that as a group, a big group, and we didn't specify anything inside the parens because we don't know anything yet. And so that tells MySQL this window includes all the rows. find the average of salary across all the rows. And because we used over, it doesn't reduce us down. It doesn't take that window and turn it into a single row. It gives us that value for every single row that was in the window. So we also can do this with all the other aggregate functions we've seen so far. Let me just put this in a file so we have a record of it. So something like we've seen sum, right? We've seen min and max. Just show that real quick. If I want to see the minimum salary from the entire table, this is what I would do. And then I'll also do the max. Max salary over. And that over makes a big difference because now we see min and max alongside each row. So I can look at, all right, this person made $80,000 as their salary. The minimum salary in the database is in the table is 31,000. Maximum is 159,000. And we see that for every single row. And I understand it doesn't seem that useful to have the min and max column for every single row just always be the same. But it is still different, and it is somewhat useful if we wanted to be able to compare somebody's salary to the average, the min, and the max. We don't have to do two queries. We can look at every salary and see aggregate statistics alongside. But we'll have more control in the coming videos. So to sum this up, what we saw, if I get rid of over, let me just show what happens then. I'll keep this version. And I'll get rid of over there. And just do min salary and max salary. We know how to do that, min and max. But we're going to have a bad time. Because we're trying to do a group by expression, but we're also referencing columns that are not part of the group by. They're not grouped together values. So we've learned about this earlier, right? If I do a group by, even though I didn't explicitly write the clause group by, it still is grouping behind the scenes when we do min and max. It's trying to do some aggregate stuff and boil it down to a single value. Like if we did this, 31,000, 159,000. That is how min and max work when we don't call them as window functions. We get a single value. So we were trying to get a single value min and max alongside all the rows of salary department, all those values. And the way to do that is by using over. So this is going to give us the same number at the end of the day, 31,000, 159,000, but the output is very different. And soon we'll see that the way that it's actually performed is very different as well. So min and max, sum, all the different aggregate functions work. I don't think I need to show them all to you. And there's also a handful of window-only functions that we're going to learn about in this section as well. But so far we've seen things like average, min, and max. Those are regular aggregate functions. You don't have to use over with them. But if you do, we get this very different result. Okay, so next up, we're going to learn about what we can put inside of over.